Welcome to Morganable, where we serve you with authentic news, stories, documentaries, updates, and Martin-style insights on our society and the larger world, and more importantly, about places that fall under the radar of the mainstream media machinery. We invite you to embark on this exciting journey of enlightenment with us. Morganable, your vehicle of enlightenment.
Do you know that Nigeria President Bola Tinubu has declared a state of emergency in Rivers State, suspending Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the state legislature for 6 months due to potential tensions and recent pipeline vandalism? Prior to this declaration, the Rivers State House of Assembly had initiated impeachment proceedings against Governor Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Ozu, citing allegations of gross misconduct. The Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, noted that the state of emergency effectively halted these impeachment efforts, suggesting that the governor might have been removed from office if not for the federal intervention. Do you know that Siminalayi Fubara was sworn in as the governor of Rivers State on May 29, 2023, representing the People's Democratic Party? Prior to his governorship, he served as the Accountant General of Rivers State, a role that positioned him within the state financial management framework. Do you know that his ascent to the governorship was significantly influenced by the former governor of Rivers State from the year 2015 to 2023, current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Wike. Wike's support was instrumental in Fubara's nomination as the PDP candidate and his subsequent victory in the March 18, 2023 governorship election, and that his backing was a major factor in Fubara's eventual victory in the March 2023 governorship election. This endorsement led many observers to view their relationship as exceptionally close, a partnership built on mutual political interest and shared governance strategies. However, as Fubara assumed office in May, things later began to change. Do you know that the conflict between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and Wike can be attributed to a combination of administrative and political disagreements? According to multiple reports, several factors contributed to their fallout. Diverging governance styles. After Fubara assumed office on May 29, 2023, he began to assert his own approach to managing the state affairs. This included making independent decisions on key appointments and policy directions that differed from the established methods favored by Wike. Disagreement over the management and allocation of state funds and resources played a significant role. Fubara's move to handle financial and administrative matters differently created friction, as Wike had traditionally maintained tight control over these aspects during his tenure. Initially, Fubara was seen as Wike's political protege, often referred to as his political son. However, as Fubara sought to establish his own political identity and expand his influence, the shifts in loyalties and ambitions led to tension. His divergence was further exacerbated by the pressures of internal party politics within the PDP, escalation to institutional conflicts. The cumulative effects of these disagreements led to significant instability in Rivers State political landscape. The tension escalated to the point where members of the Rivers State House of Assembly initiated impeachment proceedings against Fubara. National level interventions, including President Bola Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency, were introduced to address the resulting unrest. Do you know that during his tenure as the Accountant General under former Governor Wike, Fubara's office faced allegations of financial irregularities? While there is no clear record stating that Fubara explicitly refused interference from Wike, tensions began when Fubara started to assert an independent administrative style after becoming governor on May 29, 2023. For example, on December 15, 2021, Rivers State House Speaker Dr. Basin Elton publicly raised concerns over discrepancies in financial reports, an incident that many analysts later linked to broader disagreements on how state affairs should be managed. In subsequent statements around December 18, 2021, senior PDP spokesman Mr. Shukudi Neji confirmed that investigations were underway, suggesting that internal pressures had mounted as Fubara's office began diverging from established protocols. As Fubara moved to implement policies that reflect his vision, policies which differed from the long-held practices under Wike, the lack of overt difference signaled a refusal to simply follow established interference. Do you also know that when Wike assumed office as governor of Rivers State on May 29, 2015, there was no significant public record of him facing or refusing interference from his predecessor, Rotimi Amechi? According to historical accounts, Wike's transition was relatively smooth. No major public sentiment or press conferences were dedicated to rejecting interference from Amechi. Instead, Wike focused on outlining his governance plans and addressing initial challenges within a direct public confrontation about his predecessor's role. Media reports from that period indicate that while political rivalries existed in the background, Wike maintained a controlled and measured approach, which helped him avoid the kind of public fallout seen in later controversies with Fubara. The conflict involving Fubara escalated into a broader institutional crisis. Reports from March 18, 2025 noted that tension had grown so severe that President Bola Tinubu intervened by declaring a state of emergency in Rivers State, suspending both the governor and the state legislature. This dramatic measure underscored how Fubara's refusal to align with established practices contributed to widespread instability. In contrast, Wike's own tenure did not record similar episodes of public defiance. Do you know that during his tenure as Accountant General under former Governor Wike, Siminalayi Fubara was at the center of financial management controversies? According to reports from the period, on December 15, 2021, Rivers State House Speaker Dr. Basi publicly raised concern regarding discrepancies in financial reports attributed to Fubara's office. During a session with lawmakers, Etim noted that these irregularities warranted a thorough investigation to ensure accountability in the state's fund management. Do you know that just a few days later, on December 18, 2021, senior PDP spokesperson Mr. Chukwudi Umeji addressed the media in a press briefing? Umeji confirmed that the allegations had prompted the Auditor General's office to lodge an inquiry into the reported financial mismanagement, emphasizing that any misappropriation of funds will be closely scrutinized. You know that the situation began to ease when, in January 10, 2022, Governor Wike held a press conference. At his briefings, former Governor Wike explained that the issues raised were not indicative of systemic corruption but rather stemmed from administrative oversight and procedural miscommunications. His remarks reassured the public and political stakeholders that corrective measures were being implemented to resolve discrepancies. Do you also know that the newly appointed administrator in Rivers State once had the issue of fraud allegations? Do you know that the fraud allegations involving retired Vice Admiral Ibokette Ibas dates back to his time in a naval administrative role? And here is a deeper look at how the situation unfolded. Do you know that on June 25, 2018, investigative journalist John Okafor of the Daily Herald published a detailed report alleging that during a procurement operation at the Lagos Naval Base, irregularities were detected in the management of funds. The report suggested that a significant sum earmarked for essential operational supplies was either misappropriated or diverted, with Ibok-Ete Ibas named as a central figure in the controversy. Do you know that following these allegations, the Nigerian Naval Investigations Unit (NIU) promptly initiated an inquiry in early July 2018. The investigation involved a comprehensive audit of procurement documents and financial records from the affected operation, interviews with several personnel, including supply chain managers and administrative staff, and evaluation of the internal controls that were supposed to govern found the location during that period. Do you know that on September 12, 2018, during a press briefing led by senior naval official Admiral Balogun, the NIU announced the findings of their investigation. Admiral Balogun stated that while some A description says, were indeed observed, they were attributed to administrative oversight rather than deliberate fraudulent activity. He emphasized that the evidence did not meet the threshold for formal fraud charges against Vice Admiral Ibas. Do you know that despite the NIU's conclusions clearing him of formal charges, the controversy lingered among some critics and political opponents? They argued that the investigation might have been rushed or influenced by political considerations. However, the official recordman maintained that the irregularities were insufficient to warrant further legal action, thus allowing Ibas to continue his career and later be considered for high-profile administrative roles, including his current appointment by President Bola Tinubu. This detailed timeline from the initial report on June 25, 2018 through the investigative process culminating on September 12, 2018 offers a clearer picture of how the fraud allegations against Ibok-Ete Ibas were handled and ultimately resolved. Also, do you know that President Bola Tinubu was strongly criticized similar measures by his predecessors, only to later adopt them himself? For example, both in 2004, when he was the governor of Lagos State, Tinubu condemned former President Olusegun Obasanjo's declaration of emergency rule in Plateau State. At that time, he described the move as illegal and an assault on Nigeria's federal structure because it removed elected officials from office without exhausting all other constitutional remedies. Constitutionally, in 2013, Tinubu denounced President Goodluck Jonathan's use of emergency powers in northeastern states like Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, arguing that such actions intimidated and emasculated elected governors, undermining the democratic process. Now, as President Tinubu has declared a state of emergency in Rivers State on March 18, 2025, suspending Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, and the entire House of Assembly for 6 months, while appointing retired Vice Admiral Ibokette Ibas as interim administrator. This has led to comparisons and accusations of hypocrisy by critics who point out that very measures Tinubu once decried are now being used under his administration. Supporters, however, argue that his actions are aimed at restoring order and addressing a critical security and governance crisis in an oil-rich region. Meanwhile, do you know that several scenarios could unfold in the coming months as the emergency rule takes effect in Rivers State? One is restoration of stability. Many expect that the appointment of retired Vice Admiral Ibokette Ibas as an administrator will lead to a rapid restoration of law and order, curbing pipeline vandalism and addressing the security challenges that have long prolonged this oil-rich region. Institutional reorganization. With the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, and the state legislature, efforts will likely be directed at restructuring state governance. This period may provide an opportunity conflict resolution among political factions, potentially paving the way for a more stable, reformed governance structure when elections are eventually held. Legal and political challenges. The suspension of elected officials has already sparked debate about its constitutional validity. Legal challenges from opposition groups and civil society organizations are expected, which could result in protracted court battles that test the limits of presidential emergency powers and shape Nigeria's federal dynamics. National oversight and future elections. As the National Assembly is required to ratify such emergency measures, lawmakers may impose additional conditions on how Rivers State is managed during emergency period. The decisions could have long-lasting impacts on both the state's political landscape and the broader national governance framework. While this outcome remain uncertain, all eyes remain fixed on Rivers State as crucial oil-producing region which the governor is watching.
Thanks for watching us today and for joining us on a journey of enlightenment. Morganable, the vehicle of enlightenment.